Hi, I'm Kat, I play Sims, and this is the second build on my street of occult houses. I made a random generator wheel to decide which came next, and I got Mermaid for this one. I decided I wanted to make it look like a giant aquarium, so I made a big box and started adding pools to the sides. I had to add them in alternating spaces because the game wouldn't allow you to place a pool higher than one level, and I just made everything in this build with the glass walls because it was just after the update. I put a platform and a foundation on it and I made them black. I was basically going for the same sort of thing as the aquarium that's in game, so like a square aquarium with a black top and bottom. I added stairs at the front and I just made everything look as boxy as possible. I have already put down the footprints for the other houses on the street as well, so I knew exactly how much space everything had. I wasn't enjoying trying to put down the fence around the edge of this one because it doesn't like doing different heights and joining them together, so I had to leave a little gap there. I added a sandy texture in it so that I could landscape the yard area kind of like a beach, and I put that same sand texture in the bottom of the pools because I intended to put debug coral and things into them to make it look more like an aquarium. I sectioned off some of the pool on the second floor so that it would act more like a pool for the mermaid to actually go into, and then I started landscaping outside with lots of stuff from Island Living. I used the palm trees, my favourite low-lying plant, and a bunch of bright flowers and bushes from that pack as well. I use a fair bit of Jungle Adventure when I do use Island Living because they mesh so well together. The lot I'm using for the Occult Street is actually in Windenburg, and this mermaid house basically looks like a little slice of Sulani, which is hilarious next to the vampire house. I really like the contrast between the two, and I'm hoping the random rolls for the rest of the street will be this contrasting as well. The floor plan is almost entirely open except for the bathroom, which does have glass walls and isn't ideal, but I didn't like the idea of solid walls in there changing the look of the place, so any guests are just going to have to live with being completely on display in the bathroom. I made one of the pools on the second floor much bigger because the mermaids can actually sleep on water, and I added a staircase from Courtyard Oasis kit. I was using a lot of tile from Courtyard Oasis in this build because it went well with the Island Living and Jungle Adventure items. This house is a lot more colourful than the vampire house next door. It uses a lot of blue and white in particular because I like the sea colours. The front door was actually base game, but it fitted really nicely, and then I started pulling as many Island Living items out of debug as possible. There was less than I thought, but there was still a fair bit of coral and different shells and bits and pieces that I could put in there and make it look a little bit more decorative. I found this giant coral reef item and sized it down, and then I was looking for the starfish and things like that, just fill in a few gaps so that it looked a little bit more like the floor of an aquarium and not so blank. I found this whale sculpture for the yard, which I really liked, and then I got these, I think they're tree wraps or lamppost wraps, but they look a lot like floating kelp strands, so I put those all over the place as well. And I tried to place some fish, but they didn't really work, so I decided against that in the end. I moved upstairs to the second floor aquariums and decorated that the same way with all of the kelp and coral and different bits and pieces I'd found in debug, as well as some plants that shouldn't really have been in the water, but I was running out of ways to use the items I had, and then I added a couple of little rocks as well. The Island Living debug was actually quite limited in the items that I wanted, so I had to repeat a lot and just try and make it look a little bit more interesting by varying the heights and sizes and grouping. I found a funny little chicken balloon, and I put some of the Island Living clear sections up in the top of the aquarium lid, and then I went on to the bathroom. I used a really pretty Jungle Adventure sink, but just a base game toilet, and I put a Crystal Creations mirror up because it sort of fit the vibes quite nicely. I only put a little bit of clutter in this bathroom because I really didn't want to be putting a lot on the glass walls, and I used Riviera retreat rugs just to cover the base so that it looked a little bit stony. I did use pictures from Island Living debug on the wall in the sort of bedroom area, and then I moved on to the kitchen. This was a weird mix of Island Living, kitchen clutter, and Jungle Adventure. I really liked the colour scheme that I had, so I was trying to get bluish appliances, and the blue counters were a little bit too bright, so I used white tops and pale wood instead. I fiddled around with the counters a little bit. I put a lemonade tray out, and then I used Desert Luxe bar stools for this side of the counter. I moved on to the living area and I decided to make my own custom TV stand, so I used Jungle Adventure upper cabinets and I moved them around quite a bit trying to change heights. I gave them legs with a life and death ottoman, and then I just tried to make it look like one piece. I used a frame TV and then a retro game console. I put the little salt lamp up and I just put a couple of little bits of basic clutter on and around the console table. I used a lot of pale wood tones in this build, and I put colourful items like the board games and a picture from Comfy Gamer. The coffee table, I actually used Cozy Kitsch just for a plainish one. I controlled myself and didn't use the aquarium table. And then for the sofas, I used the sectionals from Dream Home Decorator in a sort of pink tone to match the TV. I moved everything over to fit with the sectional and centre everything, and then I put a Cozy Kitsch bookshelf in the corner and started just putting plants everywhere as decoration. The rug is actually from Jungle Adventure. I think I used a couple of different ones from that pack in this house because they're so nice and colourful. And I put a no shoes sign next to the front door because mermaids would not wear shoes in the house. And miracle of miracles, I've got a bin and a mailbox in this build. I tried the Jungle Adventure mirror in the corner, but it didn't quite fit right, so I think I used a Modern Lux one, and then I decided to make a little dining area in this corner. The table is Jungle Adventure again, and the chairs are from Riviera Retreat in 2 different colours to match the main colour scheme. I moved upstairs and started with a yoga mat, which I think I moved around a little bit, and I put an aquarium within an aquarium next to the bathroom. I put water balloons outside, and then I started making the sleeping area for the mermaid. Because they can use the pool as a bed, I just put a towel down and the book from Comfy Gamer, a towel rack and some pillows, which I tilted with tool mod to make them sit a little bit more naturally. As I was working on that, I found a couple of bits of clutter for the rest of the house, so I put a magazine rack downstairs, a cookbook, and some other little bits and pieces that I just found as I was on. I decided to make the corner upstairs into more of an artist studio, so I put an easel and some canvases down, and I put a little courtyard oasis vase for decoration in the corner. There's a little unit from Get Famous that I completely forget exists most of the time. I put a fountain in and a meditation stool. There's the inflatable sofa from the rewards event, and I put some splatters of paint and stuff on the floor underneath the easel. I put a rug at the top of the stairs, and then I was trying to work out how to fill the space because mermaids don't need a bed, they just need some water, so I was filling the rest of the space that would have been a bedroom with activities. I put a little glass half wall in so that I could move things up against it and separate the space, and then I put in an island living desk and chair. There's a little teal laptop and a good few bits of clutter from Everyday Clutter and mostly Comfy Gamer because I've got games, headphones and a keyboard there as well. I finished this one up with a businesses and hobbies rug. Thanks for watching, enjoy the screenshots. Thanks for watching, please consider leaving a like and subscribe.